Hello. Happy nearly Halloween. Not quite Halloween, but soon. Oh, yes. Who could it possibly be? Good evening. I don't know if you can hear me at all. Not sure how muffled mask talking combined with microphone, how well those go together. How are the Sharkies this evening? Yeah, yeah, I'm similar. Tired but excited. Yeah, I wouldn't say that my costume is exactly high difficulty. We mostly have a lot of cleaning to do. A test run? Did it go well? Farmhouse is looking forward to pictures. What's uh what's Sharky doing for work these days? Anything fun? Oh, daycare teacher. Oh, cool. Hey, it's an Ericer. Hi. Happy nearly Halloween. Farmhouse says small children can be harsh critics. Sometimes. Sharky's reply, or the most enthusiastic supporters. Erica thought I was just sitting here silently, but it turns out the volume was off. I guess it's a little harder to tell when you don't have the mouth movement. That's pretty great. Yeah, that's pretty funny. I'm not gonna wear this for the whole stream because it's getting kind of humid inside this mask. And also I feel like it might make it more difficult to listen to me actually read the book. So, how is Erica doing? Erica was sending me questions today about the Hobbit mug. Erica says, pretty good. Had a productive day in the clay studio. Yeah, like I was just saying. Many mugs were made. Very nice. Many mugs. How many mugs? Spent a long time staring at it and deciding what to do, but didn't actually start the Hobbit mug. Yeah, that's just fine. It's not a simple design, I imagine. And I couldn't find a good picture of the actual front gate of the Lonely Mountain. But your reference pics prompted a retired lady to rant about how she doesn't get Lord of the Rings. Well, that's nice. It's nice of her to share that feedback. Did you do a lot of like, oh, yeah, okay, oh, yeah, I understand, oh, yeah. Chucky say, don't see why that would necessitate a rant. Everybody's got to share their opinion. There's no point in having an opinion if you're not going to share it with every random stranger you meet. Also, she didn't understand your dancing skeleton mug. And you're like, well, might as well throw it straight in the bin then. You should have gone over and told her how you couldn't relate to every single piece she was making. Chucky say, what's there not to understand about a dancing skeleton mug? Especially in October. Like, come on. We're like days away from Halloween. Of course there's got to be a dancing skeleton mug. I want to see pictures of it. Who's it for? Is it for you or someone else? It's on your Insta? I don't, you know, I just don't get roses, say the Sharkies. I don't have an Instagram account. Maybe I should. I should have one. I mean, Farmos and I have said before we should have an Instagram account for Binnabic. Just somewhere for the internet to admire our dog, who is so cute. Roses. Such a weird young person. Is that something she said? Did she say something that you were making was a weird young person thing? Because that's awful. Been a bit. It's hard to whistle while I'm wearing a mug. Mask. I'm wearing a mug. I'm wearing a mask. A mask on my mug. Bin a bit. Bin a bon bean. Bin a cake a bon bean. I can hear clicks. Bin it. Bin. Bin a bit. Oh, even that's not working. Usually if I wrestle the bag, that's enough to bring him running. Erica showed it to her and she was like, I just don't understand why people like all these skulls and things. Sharky says, you have one in your head. You better like it. Pharma says you don't usually see the one in your head, and Erica is so happy it is there. Yeah. Yeah, you don't want that to escape. You gotta keep it where it is. You're gonna send pics? Can I show them? Ah, that's great. Erica sent me 3 pictures. Let's see if I can get it to... Oh, there we go. There's one. There we go. There's 2. I love that one. Hello. Focus, please. It was fine with the first 2. It doesn't want to do this one. There we go. Yeah, those are great. That looks fantastic. Erica says that's her favorite glaze. It's called Blue Hare's Fur. And chat is full of compliments. So is that for yourself or is that a gift for someone else? How often will I actually get to see it? Because it looks pretty great. Will I get to drink out of it at your house? Okay, I think it's time for this to come off. Oh, it's me! It was me the whole time! Surprise! A gift for Val, ah. Gave it to her on a dumpster fire of a day, and it seemed to raise her spirits. Womp womp. Nice one. It was warm in that mask. Is anyone surprised that it was actually me in there? Because if so, what the heck? It should have been very clear. I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you meddling kids, say the Sharkies. Oh, Puppy knew I was taking the mask off. He came to visit. Oh, look at that puppy. Look at that tail wagging. What a good boy. What a good... Oh, do you want a treat? You want another one? Are we way up here? Good puppy. Thanks for visiting, Ben. Oh, Gesundheit. Oh, he's got sneezes. Gesundheit. Oh, Gesundheit again. Did you get dust in your nose? I don't know how he would have known I was wearing the mask considering he didn't come in here. You got an itch? Okay, so what did Eriker... Oh, he's got an itch. Oh, trying to scratch. What did Eriker miss last time? The dragon was present, but then there was a horn being sounded, and it flew off to answer the horn. And the members of the watch chased after, and they went to the plaza. And there was someone there who was claiming to be an heir to the throne, sitting on a horse with a very nice looking sword. And so they did battle. He did battle with the dragon. And just when the dragon was going to breathe fire on said heir to the throne, suddenly the dragon couldn't, it seemed like, breathe said fire, and the king-to-be ducked in and stabbed the dragon, who disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Vimes, Captain Vimes, seemed to think that this wasn't quite right. Something was wrong about it. There were no chunks of the dragon, for one. Also, I don't know. He made a list of various things that were wrong with the situation. There was a big party throughout the night, and the heir to the throne was marched up to the palace, and they took Lord Vetinari away and stuck him in his own dungeon. He seemed to be just fine with that. He just smiled and went peacefully. What else happened? Vimes went back to the plaza square where the fight happened, and he was tracing out the fight and trying to figure out what was wrong when some magic-y type things started happening. And it seemed like there was a little bit kind of from the dragon's perspective, figuring out that it might be able to, like, it had been summoned and then banished away, and the dragon seemed to discover that it could find its way back all on its own. So while Vimes was in the plaza square, some lightning started flashing around out of the air, and then Lady Ramkin's coach came screeching up and hauled him inside, and they started running away. And then eventually the dragon reappeared. The plaza was full of dragon. And that's roughly where we left off. There were lots of little details that I have not included. Um, does anyone else have any significant details that should be mentioned that I forgot? The librarian was looking for something in the library, leaving behind, like taking a ball of string and playing it out behind. The Sharkies say Nobby and Colin filled Carrot in on how Gaskin died. Yes, that's true. And that was roughly, they saw a robbery, and the group of them chased after, but poor old Gaskin ran quickly after the robber. And Nobby and Colin were saying, you know, you can be an old guard or you can be a fast guard, but you can't be a fast old guard. And it seemed like basically he chased after the robber, and then the robber had some mates waiting and they jumped him, but it kind of sounded like it might have also just been heart failure at that point. They were a little unclear as to whether Gaskin was killed or whether Gaskin just died. It may have been that he was startled and then his heart gave out. I'm not sure. Um, yeah, I think that's probably the main points. There's definitely some details, but if you want those, you'll have to either... Let's see, Farmhouse says she always assumed that he was killed. The Sharkies say the implication was it's too dangerous to try hard being in the Night Watch. Yeah. If you want all of the details I left out, well, you can find them on YouTube. In case anybody didn't know, I do post all of these streams up on my YouTube channel after... They go up almost immediately after we're done here. Yeah, Farmhouse says she thinks there's some underlying guilt there with Colin and Nobby. Definitely, yeah. Alright, well, I'm going to go back just one paragraph or so, roughly, to catch up to where we are. So this was right after the dragon appeared, like immediately after the dragon appeared in the plaza. Who would have thought it? So much power so close at hand. The dragon could feel the magic flowing into it, renewing it from second to second, in defiance of all boring physical laws. This, oh yes, it seemed to have leached a bunch of power from the Unseen University. This wasn't the poor fare it had been given before. This was the right stuff. There was no end to what it could do with power like this. But first, it had to pay respects to certain people. It sniffed the dawn air. It was searching for the stink of mines. Noble dragons don't have friends. The nearest they can get to the idea is an enemy who is still alive. The air became very still, so still that you could almost hear the slow fall of dust. The librarian swung on his knuckles between the endless bookshelves. The dome of the library was still overhead, but then it always was. It seemed quite logical to the librarian that, since there were aisles where the shelves were on the outside, then there should be other aisles in the space between the books themselves, created out of quantum ripples by the sheer weight of words. There were certainly some odd sounds coming from the other side of some shelving, and the librarian knew that if he gently pulled out a book or two, he would be peeking into different libraries under different skies. Books bend space and time. One reason the owners of those aforesaid little rambling, poky second-hand bookshops always seem slightly unearthly is that many of them really are, having strayed into this world after taking a wrong turning in their own bookshops, in worlds where it is considered commendable business practice to wear carpet slippers all the time and open your shop only when you feel like it. You stray into L space at your peril. Very senior librarians, however, once they have proved themselves worthy by performing some valiant act of librarianship, are accepted into a secret order and are taught the raw arts of survival beyond the shelves we know, that's capitalized. The librarian was highly skilled in all of them, but what he was attempting now wouldn't just get him thrown out of the order, but probably out of life itself. All libraries everywhere are connected in L space. All libraries. Everywhere. And the librarian, navigating by book sign, carved on shelves by past explorers, navigated by smell, navigating even by the siren whisperings of nostalgia, was heading purposefully for one very special one. There was one consolation. If he got it wrong, he'd never know it. Eriker says, "That's what I call my best people, enemies who are still alive." And also, survival tactics are a core course in the librarian degree. Ah, that's good. Somehow, the dragon was worse on the ground. In the air, it was an elemental thing, graceful even when it was trying to burn you to your boots. On the ground, it was just a damn great animal. Its huge head reared against the gray of dawn, turning slowly. Lady Ramkin and Vimes peered cautiously from behind a water trough. Vimes had his hand clamped over Errol's muzzle. The little dragon was whimpering like a kicked puppy and fighting to get away. "It's a magnificent brute," said Lady Ramkin, in what she probably thought was a whisper. "I do wish you wouldn't keep saying that," said Vimes. There was a scraping noise as the dragon dragged itself over the stones. "I knew it wasn't killed," growled Vimes. "There were no bits. It was too neat. It was sent somewhere by some sort of magic, I bet. Look at it. It's bloody impossible. It needs magic to keep it alive." "What do you mean?" said Lady Ramkin, not tearing her gaze from its armored flanks. What did he mean? What did he mean? He thought fast. "It's just not physically possible, that's what I mean," he said. "Nothing that heavy should be able to fly, or breathe fire like that. I told you." "But it looks real enough. I mean, you'd expect a magical creature to be, well, gauzy." "Oh, it's real. It's real, all right," said Vimes bitterly. "But supposing it needs magic like we need sunlight, or food." "It's a thaumaphore, you mean?" "I just think it eats magic, that's all," said Vimes, who had not a classical education. "I mean, all these little swamp dragons, always on the point of extinction. Suppose one day, back in prehistoric times, some of them found out how to use magic." "There used to be a lot of natural magic around once," said Lady Ramkin, thoughtfully. "There you are, then. After all, creatures use the air and the sea. I mean, if there's a natural resource around, Something's going to use it, aren't they? Then it wouldn't matter about bad digestion and weight and wing size and so on, because the magic would take care of it. Wow! But you'd need a lot, he thought. He wasn't certain how much magic you'd need to change the world enough to let tons of armored carcass flit through the sky like a swallow, but he'd bet it was lots. All those thefts. Someone had been feeding the dragon. He looked at the bulk of the unseen university library of magic books, the greatest accumulation of distilled magical power on the Discworld. And now, the dragon had learned how to feed itself. He became terribly aware that Lady Ramkin had moved, and saw to his horror that she was striding towards the dragon, chin stuck out like an anvil. "What the hell are you doing?" he whispered loudly. "If it's descended from the swamp dragons, then I can probably control it," she called back. "You have to look them in the eye and use a no-nonsense tone of voice. They can't resist a stern human voice. They don't have the willpower, you know. They're just big softies." To his shame, Vimes realized that his legs were going to have nothing to do with any mad dash to drag her back. His pride didn't like that, but his body pointed out that it wasn't his pride that stood a very reasonable chance of being thinly laminated to the nearest building. Through ears burning with embarrassment, he heard her say, "Bad boy!" The echoes of that stern injunction rang out across the plaza. "Oh gods," he thought, "is that how you train a dragon? Point them at the melted patch on the floor and threaten to rub their nose in it?" He risked a peep over the horse trough. The dragon's head was swinging around slowly, like a crane jib. It had some difficulty focusing on her, right below it. Vimes could see the great red eyes narrow as the creature tried to squint down the length of its own nose. It looked puzzled. He wasn't surprised. "Sit!" bellowed Lady Ramkin, in a tone so undisobeyable that even Vimes felt his legs involuntarily sag. "Good boy! I think I may have a lump of coke somewhere." She patted her pockets. Eye contact. That was the important thing. She really, Vimes thought, shouldn't have looked down, even for a moment. The dragon raised one talon in a leisurely fashion and pinned her to the ground. As Vimes half rose in horror, Errol escaped from his grip and cleared the trough in one leap. He bounced across the plaza in a series of wing-whirring arcs, mouth gaping, emitting wheezing burps, trying to flame. He was answered with a tongue of blue-white fire that melted a streak of bubbling rock several yards long, but failed to strike the challenger. It was hard to pick him out of the air because, quite clearly, even Errol didn't know where he was going to be, or what way up he was going to be when he got there. His only hope at this point lay in movement, and he vaulted and spun between the increasingly furious bursts of fire, like a scared but determined random particle. The great dragon reared up with the sound of a dozen anchor chains being thrown into a corner, and tried to bat the tormentor out of the air. Vimes's legs gave in at that point and decided that they might allow themselves to be heroic legs for a while. He scurried across the intervening space, sword at the ready for what good it might do, grabbed Lady Ramkin by an arm and a handful of bedraggled ball gown, and swung her onto his shoulder. He got several yards before the essential bad judgment of this move dawned on him. He went, "Nech." His vertebrae and knees were trying to fuse into one lump. Purple spots flashed on and off in front of his eyes. On top of it all, something unfamiliar but apparently made of whalebone was poking sharply into the back of his neck. He managed a few more steps by sheer momentum, knowing that when he stopped, he was going to be utterly crushed. The Ramkins hadn't bred for beauty. They'd bred for healthy solidity and big bones, and they'd got very good at it over the centuries. A gout of livid dragonfire crackled into the flagstones a few feet away. Afterwards, he wondered if he'd only imagined leaping several inches into the air and covering the rest of the distance to the horse trough at a respectable run. Perhaps, in extremis, everyone learned the kind of instant movement that was second nature to Nobby. Anyway, the horse trough was behind him, and Lady Ramkin was in his arms, or at least was pinning his arms to the ground. He managed to free them, and tried to massage a bit of life back. What did you do next? She didn't seem to be injured. He recalled something about loosening a person's clothing, but in Lady Ramkin's case that might be dangerous without special tools. She solved the immediate problem by grabbing the edge of the trough and hauling herself upright. "Right," she said. "It's the slipper for you." Her eyes focused on Vimes for the first time. "What the hell's going on?" she began again, and then caught the scene over his shoulder. "Oh, sod," she said. "Pardon my Clatchian." Errol was running out of energy. The stubby wings were indeed capable of real flight, and he was remaining airborne solely by flapping madly like a chicken. The great talons swished through the air. One of them caught one of the plaza's fountains and demolished it. The next one swatted Errol neatly. He shot over Vimes's head in a straight rising line, hit a roof behind him, and slid down it. "You've got to catch him!" shouted Lady Ramkin. "You must! It's vital!" Vimes stared at her, and then dived forward at Errol's pear-shaped body slithering over the edge of the roof, and dropped. He was surprisingly heavy. "Thank goodness," said Lady Ramkin, struggling to her feet. "They explode so easily, you know. It could have been very dangerous." They remembered the other dragon. It wasn't the exploding sort. It was the killing people kind. They turned slowly. Pharma saying, "Oh, corsets." The creature loomed over them, sniffed, and then, as if they were of no importance at all, turned away. It sprang ponderously into the air, and, with one slow flap of its wings, began to scull leisurely away down the plaza and up into the mists that were rolling over the city. Vimes was currently more concerned with the smaller dragon in his hands. Its stomach was rumbling alarmingly. He wished he'd paid more attention to the book on dragons. Was a stomach noise like this a sign they were about to explode? Or was the point you had to watch out for the point when the rumbling stopped? "We've got to follow it," said Lady Ramkin. "What happened to the carriage?" Vimes waved a hand vaguely in the direction that, as far as he could tell, the horses had taken in their panic. Errol sneezed a cloud of warm gas that smelled worse than something walled up in a cellar, pawed at the air weakly, licked Vimes' face with a tongue like a hot cheese grater, struggled out of his arms, and trotted away. Where's he off to? Boomed Lady Ramkin, emerging from the mists, dragging the horses behind her. They didn't want to come. Their hooves were scraping up sparks, but they were fighting a losing battle. He's still trying to challenge it, said Vimes. You'd think he'd give in, wouldn't you? They fight like blazes, said Lady Ramkin, as he climbed onto the coach. It's a matter of making your opponent explode, you see. I thought, in nature, the defeated animal just rolls on its back in submission, and that's an end of it, said Vimes as they clattered after the disappearing swamp dragon. Wouldn't work with dragons, said Lady Ramkin. Some daft creature rolls on its back, you disembowel it. That's how they look at it. Almost human, really. The clouds were clustered thickly over Ankh-Morpork. Above them, the slow golden sunlight of the Discworld unrolled. The dragon sparkled in the dawn as it trod the air joyously, doing impossible turns and rolls for the sheer delight of it. Pharma says Lady Ramkin with the social commentary. Doing impossible turns and rolls for the sheer delight of it. Then it remembered the business of the day. They'd had the presumption to summon it. Below it, the rank wandered from side to side up the street of small gods. Despite the thick fog, it was beginning to get busy. What do you call them things? Like thin stairs, said Sergeant Colin. Ladders, said Carrot. A lot of 'em about, said Nobby. He mooched over to the nearest one and kicked it. Oi! A figure struggled down, half buried in a string of flags. What's going on? Said Nobby. The flag bearer looked him up and down. Who wants to know, Tiddler? He said. Excuse me, we do, said Carrot, looming out of the fog like an iceberg. The man gave a sickly grin. Well, it's the coronation, isn't it? He said. Got to get the streets ready for the coronation. Got to have the flags up. Got to get the old bunting out, haven't we? Nobby gave the dripping finery a jaundiced look. Doesn't look that old to me, he said. It looks new. What are them fat, saggy things on the shield? Those are the royal hippos of Ankh, said the man proudly. Reminders of our noble heritage. How long have we had a noble heritage, then? Said Nobby. Since yesterday, of course. You can't have a heritage in a day, said Carrot. It has to last a long time. If we haven't got one, said Sergeant Colin, I bet we'll soon have had one. My wife left me a note about it. All these years, and she turned out to be a monarchist. He kicked the pavement viciously. Ha! He said. A man knocks his pipes out for 30 years to put a bit of meat on the table, but all she's talking about is some boy who gets to be king for 5 minutes' work. Know what was for my tea last night? Beef dripping sandwiches. This did not have the expected response from the two bachelors. Core, said Nobby. Real beef dripping, said Carrot. The kind with the little crunchy bits on top and shiny blobs of fat. Can't remember when I last addressed the crust on a bowl of dripping, mused Nobby, in a gastronomic heaven. With just a bit of salt and pepper, you got a meal fit for a...
Don't even say it, warned Colin. The best bit is when you stick the knife in and crack the fat, and all the browny gold stuff bubbles up, said Carrot dreamily. A moment like that is worth the key. Shut up! Shut up! Shouted Colin. You're just... What the hell was that? They felt the sudden downdraft, saw the mist above them roll into coils that broke against the house walls. A blast of colder air swept along the street and was gone.
The Sharkies say, I'm going to occasionally refer to ladders as thin stairs from now on. Firemouse says, I feel like this meal is somewhat different than what she thinks of as like a beef dip sandwich. Must be an English thing. Yeah, maybe. The crunchy bits on top and lots of fat.
It was like something gliding past up there somewhere, said the sergeant. He froze. Hare, you don't think... We saw it killed, didn't we? Said Nobby urgently.
We saw it vanish, said Carrot. They looked at one another, alone and damp in the mist-shrouded street. There could be anything up there. The imagination peopled the dank air with terrible apparitions. And what was worse was the knowledge that nature might have done an even better job.
Nah, said Colin. It was probably just some big wading bird, or something.
Isn't there anything we should do? Said Carrot.
Yes, said Nobby. We should go away quickly. Remember Gaskin?
Maybe it's another dragon, said Carrot. We should warn people and...
No,
said Sergeant Colin vehemently.
Because A, they wouldn't believe us, and B, we've got a king now. It's his job, dragons. That's right, said Nobby. He'd probably be really angry. Dragons are probably, royal animals, like deer. A man could probably have his Tridlins plucked just for thinking about killing one when there's a king around.
Footnote 1. Tridlins. A short and unnecessary religious observance performed daily by the holy balancing dervishes of others, according to the Dictionary of Eye-Watering Words. End of footnote.
Makes you glad you're common, said Colin. Commoner, corrected Nobby.
That's not a very civic attitude, Carrot began. He was interrupted by Errol. Sharky say uncharacteristically wise Carrot. The little dragon came trotting up the middle of the street, stumpy tail high, his eyes fixed on the clouds above him. He went right by the rank without giving them any attention at all.
What's up with him?
Said Nobby. A clatter behind them introduced the ramkin coach. Men? Said Vimes hesitantly, peering through the fog.
Definitely,
said Sergeant Colin. Did you see a dragon go past? Apart from Errol.
Well,
said the sergeant, looking at the other two.
Sort of, sir. Possibly. It might have been.
Then don't stand there like a lot of boobies, said Lady Ramkin. Get in! Plenty of room inside. Did Mia laugh at that one? There was. When it was built, the coach had probably been the marvel of the day, all plush and gilt and tasseled hangings. Time, neglect,
and the ripping out of the seats to allow its frequent use to transport dragons to shows had taken their toll, but it still reeked of privilege, style, and, of course, dragons. "What do you think you're doing?" said Colin, as it rattled off through the fog. "Wafin'," said Nobby, gesturing graciously to the billows around them. "Disgusting, this sort of thing, really," mused Sergeant Colin. "People going around in coaches like this, when there's people with no roof to their heads." "It's Lady Remkin's coach," said Nobby. "She's all right." "Well, yes, but what about her ancestors, hey? You don't get big houses and carriages without grinding the faces of the poor a bit." "You're just annoyed because your missus has been embroidering crowns on her undies," said Nobby. Sharky says she had left the room, otherwise she might have laughed. All right. "That's got nothing to do with it," said Sergeant Colin indignantly. "I've always been very firm on the rights of man." "And dwarf," said Carrot. "Yeah, right," said the sergeant uncertainly. "But all this business about kings and lords, it's against basic human dignity. We're all born equal. It makes me sick." "Never heard you talk like this before, Frederick," said Nobby. "That's Sergeant Colin to you, Nobby." "Sorry, Sergeant." The fog itself was shaping up to be a real Ankh-Morpork Autumn Gumbo. Footnote 1. Like a pea souper, only much thicker, fishier, and with things in it you'd probably rather not know about. End of footnote. Vimes squinted through it as the droplets buckled down to a good day's work, soaking him to the skin. "I can just make 'em out," he said. "Turn left here." "Any ideas where we are?" said Lady Ramkin. "Business district somewhere," said Vimes shortly. Errol's progress was slowing a bit. He kept looking up and whining. "Can't see a damn thing above us in this fog," he said. "I wonder if—" The fog, as if in acknowledgement, lit up. Ahead of them it blossomed like a chrysanthemum and made a noise like whoomph. "Oh no," moaned Vimes. "Not again." Farmouse says, "Fishier. Not something I want air to be." Yeah, not either with bits in it. "Are the cups of integrity well and truly suffused?" intoned Brother Watchtower. "Aye, suffused full well." "The waters of the world, are they abjured?" "Yea, abjured full mightily." "Have the demons of infinity been bound with many chains?" "Damn," said Brother Plasterer. "There's always something." Brother Watchtower sagged. "Just once, it would be nice if we could get the ancient and timeless rituals right, wouldn't it? You'd better get on with it." "Wouldn't it be quicker, Brother Watchtower, if I just did it twice next time?" said Brother Plasterer. Brother Watchtower gave this some grudging consideration. It seemed reasonable. "All right," he said. "Now, get back down there with the others. And you should call me Acting Supreme Grand Master. Understand?" This did not meet with what he considered to be a proper and dignified reception among the brethren. "No one said anything to us about you being Acting Supreme Grand Master," muttered Brother Doorkeeper. "Well, that's all you know, because I bloody well am. Because Supreme Grand Master asked me to open the lodge, on account of him being delayed with all this coronation work," said Brother Watchtower haughtily. "If that doesn't make me Acting Supreme Grand Bloody Master, I'd like to know what does, all right. I don't see why, muttered Brother Doorkeeper. You don't have to have a grand title like that. You could just be called something like, well, Rituals Monitor. Yeah, said Brother Plasterer. Don't see why you should give yourself airs. You ain't even been taught the ancient and mystic mysteries by monks or anything. We've been hanging around for hours, too, said Brother Doorkeeper. That's not right. I thought we'd get rewarded. Brother Watchtower realized that he was losing control. He tried wheedling diplomacy. I'm sure Supreme Grand Master will be along directly, he said. Let's not spoil it all now, eh, lads? Arranging that fight with the dragon and everything. Getting it all off right. That was something, wasn't it? We've been through a lot, right? It's worth waiting just a bit longer, okay? The circle of robed and cowled figures shuffled in grudging agreement. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, certainly. Oh, I don't know about that last one. Okay, if you say so. To be clear, the reason that I completely bungled that one line, it doesn't really have this full effect read aloud. Come on. Well, in case you can't see it, yes, one line was like that. All caps voice. Erica got it right. No quotation marks either. It began to creep over Brother Watchtower that something wasn't right. But he couldn't quite put a name to it. Oh, he said. Brothers? They, too, shifted uneasily. Something in the room was setting their teeth on edge. There was an atmosphere. Brothers? Repeated Brother Watchtower, trying to reassert himself. We are all here, aren't we? There was a worried chorus of agreement. Of course we are. What's the matter? Yes. 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 There it was again. A subtle wrongness about things that you couldn't quite put your finger on because your finger was too scared. But Brother Watchtower's troublesome thoughts were interrupted by a scrabbling sound on the roof. A few nubs of plaster dropped into the circle. Brothers? Repeated Brother Watchtower nervously. Now, there was one of those silent sounds, a long, buzzing silence of extreme concentration, and just possibly the indrawing of breath into lungs the size of haystacks. The last rats of Brother Watchtower's self-confidence fled the sinking ship of courage. Brother Doorkeeper, if you could just unbolt the dread portal, he quavered. And then there was light. There was no pain. There was no time. Death strips away many things, especially when it arrives at a temperature hot enough to vaporize iron, and among them are your illusions. The immortal remains of Brother Watchtower watched the dragon flap away into the fog, and then looked down at the congealing puddle of stone, metal, and miscellaneous trace elements that was all that remained of the secret headquarters. And of its occupants, he realized in the dispassionate way that is part of being dead. You go through your whole life and end up a smear swirling around like cream in a coffee cup. Whatever the gods' games were, they played them in a damn mysterious way. He looked up at the hooded figure beside him. We never intended this, he said weakly. Honestly, no offense. We just wanted what was due to us. A skeletal hand patted him on the shoulder, not unkindly, and Death said, "Congratulations." I forgot what my Death voice was before, but this one works well enough, I guess. Apart from the Supreme Grand Master, the only elucidated brother to be away at the time of the dragon was Brother Fingers. He'd been sent out for some pizzas. Brother Fingers was always the one sent out for takeaway food. It was cheaper. He'd never bothered to master the art of paying for things. When the guards rolled up just behind Errol, Brother Fingers was standing with a stack of cardboard boxes in his hands and his mouth open. Where the dread portal should have been was a warm, melted patch of assorted substances. "Oh, my goodness," said Lady Ramkin. The Sharkies say, "That's it, your favorite scene?" That was... What about it? I'm curious. What specifically about that catches your attention? Just death being mixed in with a lot of them? Is that it? Farmo says, "Ah, I see, I see. Brother 5-finger discount." Well, you chose the very last scene possible with them to be your favorite one. Sharky say, because once you see Death's first line, you see it coming before the brothers do. That's fair. It's amusing, the scenes where Death shows up before the person or people in question have died. Just a little foreshadowing, a little precursor. Not just punctual, but early. Vimes slid down from the coach and tapped Brother Fingers on the shoulder. "Excuse me, sir," he said. "Did you by any chance see what—" When Brother Fingers turned towards him, his face was the face of a man who has hang-glided over the entrance to hell. He kept opening and shutting his mouth, but no words were coming out. Vimes tried again. The sheer terror frozen in Brother Fingers' expression was getting to him. "If you would be so kind to accompany me to the yard," said Vimes, "I have reason to believe that you—" He hesitated. He wasn't entirely certain what it was that he had reason to believe. But the man was clearly guilty. You could tell just by looking at him. Not perhaps guilty of anything specific, just guilty in general terms. Farmo says, of the brothers, only Fingers and Dunnikin survived, assuming Dunnikin did not succumb to Crocodile, and also assuming that Dunnikin did not recover and return to the house the secret hideout that evening. Because it did say, apart from the Supreme Grandmaster, the only brother to be away at the time of the dragon was Brother Fingers. So that says to me that Dunnikin was not away. Or just forgotten. I don't know. So, just guilty in general terms. Said Brother Fingers. Sergeant Colin gently lifted lifted the lid of the top box. "What do you make of it, Sergeant?" said Vimes, stepping back.
It looks like a Clutchian Hots with anchovies, sir,"
said Sergeant Colin, knowledgeably. "I mean the man," said Vimes wearily. Said Brother Fingers. Colin peered under the hood.
"Oh, I know him, sir," he said. "Benji Lightfoot Bogus, sir." He's a capo de monte in the Thieves' Guild. I know him of old, sir. Sly little bugger. Used to work at the university.
What, as a wizard? Said Vimes.
Odd job man, sir. Gardening and carpentry and that.
Oh, did he? Can't we do something for the poor man? Said Lady Ramkin. Nobby saluted smartly.
I could kick him in the bollocks for you if you like, m'lady.
Durr, said Brother Fingers, beginning to shake uncontrollably, while Lady Ramkin smiled the iron-hard blank smile of a high-born lady who is determined not to show that she has understood what has just been said to her. Put him in the coach, you two, said Vimes. If it's all right with you, Lady Ramkin. Sybil, corrected Lady Ramkin. Vimes blushed and plunged on. It might be a good idea to get him indoors. Charge him with the theft of one book, to wit, The Summoning of Dragons.
Right you are, sir,
said Sergeant Colin.
The pizzas are getting cold, too. You know how the cheese goes all manky when it gets cold.
And no kicking him either, Vimes warned. Not even where it doesn't show. Carrot, you come with me. Dra, Brother Fingers volunteered. And take Errol, added Vimes. He's driving himself mad here. Game, little devil, I'll give him that.
Marvelous, when you come to think about it,
said Colin. Errol was trotting up and down in front of the ravaged building, whining. Look at him, said Vimes. Can't wait to get to grips. His gaze found itself drawn, as though by wires, up to the rolling clouds of fog. It's in there somewhere, he thought. What we going to do now, sir? Said Carrot, as the carriage rattled off. Not nervous, are you? Said Vimes. No, sir. The way he said it jogged something in Vimes's mind. No, he said, you're not, are you? I suppose it's being brought up by the dwarves that did it. You've got no imagination. I'm sure I try to do my best, sir, said Carrot firmly. Still sending all your pay home to your mother? Yes, sir. You're a good boy. Yes, sir. So, what are we going to do, Captain Vimes? Carrot repeated. Vimes looked around him. He walked a few aimless, exasperated steps. He spread his arms wide, and then flopped them down by his sides. How should I know, he said. Warn people, I guess. We'd better get over to the patrician's palace. And then... There were footsteps in the fog. Vimes stiffened, put his finger to his lips, and pulled Carrot into the shelter of a doorway. A figure loomed out of the billows. Another one of 'em, thought Vimes. Well, there's no law about wearing long black robes and deep cowls. There could be dozens of perfectly innocent reasons why this person is wearing long black robes and a deep cowl, and standing in front of a melted-down house at dawn. Perhaps I should ask him to name just one. He stepped out. "Excuse me, sir," he began. The cowl swung around. There was a hiss of indrawn breath. "I just wonder if you would mind—" "After him, Lance Constable!" The figure had a good start. It scuttled along the street and had reached the corner before Vimes was halfway there. He skidded around it in time to see a shape vanish down an alley. Vimes realized he was running alone. He panted to a halt and looked back just in time to see Carrot jog gently around the corner. "What's wrong?" he wheezed. "Sergeant Colin said I wasn't to run," said Carrot. Vimes looked at him vaguely. Then slow comprehension dawned. "Oh," he said. "I, er, see. I don't think he meant in every circumstance, lad." He stared back into the fog. "Not that we had much of a chance in this fog and these streets." "Might have been just an innocent bystander, sir," said Carrot. "What, an Ankh-Morpork?" "Yes, sir." "We should have grabbed him then, just for the rarity value," said Vimes. He patted Carrot on the shoulder. "Come on, we'd better get along to the patrician's palace." "The king's palace," corrected Carrot. "What?" said Vimes. His train of thought temporarily shunted. "It's the king's palace now," said Carrot. Vimes squinted sideways at him. He gave a short, mirthless laugh. "Yeah, that's right," he conceded. "Our dragon-killing king. Well done, that man," he sighed. "They're not going to like this." I think that's a good place to stop. We're at 11 past 8. And I think it'll be a little while before the next break. A few pages anyways. Let's see. Oh, well, the name is spelled... yes, Bogus. Benji, Bengy, Lightfoot Bogus. Maybe. Farmos thinks he might become the master of the Thieves Guild, or someone else with the same last name. Farmos likes the line about the innocent bystander rarity. Sharky say it might give good loot drop. Oh boy. So, that was fun. Between now and when we meet next, there'll be Halloween. I hope everyone's got some fun plans. Are you taking the kiddos trick-or-treating? That must be fun, going trick-or-treating with the kids. We'll be staying home to answer the door and give out candy. And then I'll be running our first full session of Curse of Strahd, our new D&D game. I've got some good dice for it. Show you a little something that Farmos got me for my birthday back in July. It's got a very cool dragon and then a little latch here. And inside, spots for dice and pencils and minis. Not entirely certain why the mirror, but this foam here comes out, and then it also functions as a dice rolling tray, which is kind of cool. Kids trick-or-treating at least around your complex, maybe also your grandparents' street. Nice. Also plan to wear your costume to work tomorrow. Fun. Yeah, I like this. It's fun. It's a fun transport for dice and pencils and things. Although that said, I've also got a full tray for dice rolling purposes with a we're upside down, with a tower. That this was. We've got a custom table, a custom gaming table being made by this guy in Alberta, hopefully being made. It's been like 2 years since we ordered it. But he sent us these samples of his work as kind of I think partly a consolation for it taking so long. But they're pretty cool looking. The tower has got some really neat detail, and it's all sort of, I guess, burned into it or something, etched in. Is that Gallifreyan? There is a variety of fantasy languages on here, including, I think, Gallifreyan. There's also what looks like Tolkien Elvish. Farmos noticed some others, I remember. The book box is more for out of the house transport. But yeah, it's, your typical kind of dice tower. Sort of ladder system inside. Stairs, thin stairs inside for rolling the dice. You're just going. Erica is just going walking near Farmos's parents' place for Halloween. Well, that's a nice place for that. It's always fun going there and seeing the billions of children in their costumes and all the Halloween decorations. Farmos has been putting up a bunch of Halloween decorations outside our place. Decorated the door so it looks all spooky. Put up some cobwebs on one of the trees outside. Put up some little orange lights, which are probably turned off right now. A variety of candles and things, including a hanging cage with some candles inside and a crow sitting on top. Oh no! Erica says, sorry for this little reply. She was doing laundry and Ember tried to climb her. She scratched your arm pretty bad. Oh dear. Oh. That's no good. Are you okay? Are you bleeding? Yeah, Farmos's parents' neighborhood is just filled with kids. Ember wants to be laundry. She wants so bad to get in there. It's the ultimate box for hiding. Oh boy. Well, Farmos and I have got a fair amount to do. Tomorrow we're actually going with a friend of ours to visit a pumpkin patch. And then before and after that, we've got a lot of cleaning to do around the house and getting ready for Sunday. Yeah. Yeah, hopefully it's going to be fun going to the pumpkin patch. I don't really know for sure yet exactly what there will be to do there, but just to visit. But yeah, lots of cleaning, lots of preparing for the D&D game still to happen. I'm very curious how it's going to go. We'll see whether the player characters all survive. Alright. Erica is signing off. I'm going to as well. I really need to eat something. I'm getting hungry. So have a good night, everyone. Have a fun weekend. Have a very happy Halloween. Make sure to tell me all about it next Wednesday. And yeah. All right. I'll see you all next Wednesday, hopefully. And hopefully there's fun Halloween stories to tell. And pictures of costumes to share. All right. Happy Halloween, everyone. Have a good weekend.